Hello, fight fans, and welcome to the Combat Challenge podcast. My guest today is a light heavyweight MMA athlete signed to Bellator Promotions with over 40 professional bouts to his name, Mr. Lee, the Butcher Chadwick. Lee, thank you so much for joining us, my friend. I really appreciate it.
No problem. It's good to be on and have a chat with you tonight.
One thing I want to ask you, the fight name, The Butcher, can you tell myself and the viewers how that came about?
Yeah, well, my uncle's a butcher. He's got a butcher's down, like a deli butcher's down in London. It's really successful. He's been on adverts and stuff like that. Well, I used to do a bit of work down there for him when I left school. So it's sort of, he sponsored me one of my fights. And one of the lads who were training with said, the butcher that suits you. So it sort of stuck after it. Because it said Chadwick's Butchers on my shorts, which my name's Chadwick, isn't it? So they put two and two together and just said it suits me. It sounds aggressive, so it suits me, my style.
It does, brother. It does. I did a podcast with Luke Shanks a couple of days ago, and his fight name, although now it's the Apocalypse, before it used to be the Honey Badger. And he said, even though Honey Badgers are quite aggressive, but the name itself isn't aggressive, so he decided to change it. But the Butcher obviously does suit you. Thank you for sharing that with us, Lee. Can you talk us through your MMA journey? So how you first got into martial arts, what disciplines, and just talk us through that timeline to where you are now.
Yeah, well, when my first ever martial art was, it was Greco-Roman wrestling, and I was 11 or 12 when I got into that.
Is that the one where you can only do above waist with throws? Is that right?
Yeah, and you've got to pin them to the floor and hold them for 3 seconds. So it's a really strong, good. It builds a good base for wrestling. After that, I'd done a little bit of karate and stuff. Then I went on to kickboxing when I was 17. Done kickboxing for a couple of years, and then moved on to, when I was 19, moved on to Thai boxing and Brazilian Jiu Jitsu. And then I'd done that for about 7 years, and then moved on. I've been doing catch wrestling, submission wrestling and boxing for the last nearly about 9 years now, coming on to 9 years with Darren Morris.
The first time catch wrestling came on my radar was Ian the Mongoose Jones. He was always going and doing his catch wrestling. I'm thinking, what's that? And he ended up going to a place in Wigan called the Snake Pit. And there's a guy in the UFC, sorry, he used to be in the UFC, a heavyweight, and he used to do a lot of work with, was it Brian Robinson? Who was from a catch wrestling background from the UK.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, and I'm just trying to think of the heavyweight's name.
Ian Mongoose. Ian, what's his second name?
Jones.
Yeah, I met him because I went down to a catch wrestling tournament, and he fought my friend and an MMA fighter, Chris Oban. And I just went down to support my mate, but someone had dropped out of the heavyweights. So I jumped in and I won the belt. I've still got the belt, catch wrestling belt. No. And some guy from America was there. Ian Mongoose Jones there. There was loads of people there. And I fought someone called Amin Nazar, really good wrestler. Fought him for the belt. And they were 10-minute rounds, and he flung me everywhere. Really good. But he gassed, and then I choked him twice. So it was because you choked him, and then you go again till the time's up. So you've got to get 2 submissions before you win. You don't just win them once. It was weird rules. I've never done it before, and I've never done it since. But I went down just to support and ended up fighting and winning the belt. Like I say, I mostly compete in grappling or BJJ and MMA. But I train, we do a lot of, our style at ASW is submission wrestling. But our coach Darren Morris, he teaches us loads of catch wrestling moves, so it's a lot of locks. Like if I go with a black belt, it's the catch wrestling moves. They're not taught to BJJ guys, so I can catch people out easy with them. It is really good to have in the bag. There's loads of little arm locks, even from being on all fours in turtle and someone on top of you can submit them while you've got your back with the arm lock. It's so sneaky. It's good.
It is sneaky. And also, they do have a lot of like neck cranks, which I don't think it's allowed in Jiu Jitsu, but they do a lot of neck cranks and wrist cranks. And
Yeah.
it seems quite harsh, you know what I mean?
Well, it's whatever hurts. It's whatever hurts you. So it's a painful. It is a painful, painful sport and painful discipline. But I love it. It's brilliant. I've been disqualified from a few tournaments because of neck cranks, which I don't think they should have disqualified for. Scarf hold, it's called. They say it's a crank, but it's not. It's compression of the chest, and I've been kicked out of a couple of tournaments for that, even though I submitted them within seconds, and they're like, "Oh no, we can't have that." And so I've had to readjust in different comps and read the rules and stuff like that, because you can use them in MMA. You can use all the cranks in MMA.
And then you mentioned that you did some Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Which gym was that? Because you said you were there for a while.
Well, it was in Calbon. I was in Calbon for about 7 years, do you know, where Terry Etim and Darren Till and all them are from. So I was with Mark Scanlon. So I was with all them from when I was about 20 till I was 27, something like that. And it wasn't so much Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, it was luta livre. So we had the Brazilian over that taught us, and it was basically BJJ without a gi. In Brazil, they call it luta livre. So I've done luta livre for years, as well as me Thai boxing with Colin Heron. So I've done that for like 7 years. I had about 20 fights with Calbon, fought in the Olympia and stuff like that. So I heard about Darren Morris in ASW a long time ago, and my build, the way I fight and my style, it suits what he teaches. He's a brilliant coach, and he's really good methodically. So like moving to ASW was the best move for me, because I'm not like that BJJ style playing underneath and then Thai boxing straight up. I don't like that style. I'm more of a boxer. I like to box a bit more like with head movements, with my hands. I like to bang, and I like the wrestling. So it's completely different style, and like Darren like really brings out the best of me and teaches me in a way where my style suits my body type and works well aggressively in the cage.
Yeah, for sure. You need to go where it suits you as you move forward, and especially like with luta livre, that was ideal for MMA competing, because you're not wearing a gi, but you're still doing the similar techniques, right?
Yeah, definitely, yeah. Like I say, I don't do too much in the gi, but I'm a brown belt in the gi. But I've grappled for 16 years, 17 years, and I wrestled when I was 11, so it's coming on 24 years I've been like wrestling for.
Lee, you've been grinding, my friend. You've been grinding. So you've worked your way through.
I feel it in my joints.
You need a bit of WD-40 on them, Lee.
Telling you.
So you've worked your way through on these promotions. How did the news come about that you were signed to Bellator? And if you can tell us about that story.
Well, we decided to go on a run in Cage Warriors. And the key goal was to get the world title, the Cage Warriors world title. Then I was a middleweight. I was fighting at middleweight still. So we went to Cage Warriors, and the key was to get the Cage Warriors belt and then have a move on to UFC or Bellator. So I had 3 fights in Cage Warriors. First fight was in the Liverpool Echo Arena. I finished them in the first round, couple of minutes. Then the second fight was in Bournemouth, and I fought a local guy, Andy Manzolo, finished him with a heel hook in the first round. So I got a guillotine in the first fight, heel hook in the second fight, and then it put me through them for the title against Victor Cheng, who was a good guy from, can't remember where he's from, over the water. I think he's Dutch, but he was a really good fighter, and he come over to fight me. We had a 5-round battle, and I won the belt. He won the first couple of rounds, to be honest with you. I came back in the 3rd round. I got a few good slams, a few good takedowns, dominated them, went the distance and won the belt in the Echo Arena, Liverpool Echo Arena, in my hometown. So after that, we waited to see. Well, I was trying to get in the UFC, and there was they wasn't getting back to us. They were telling us to hang fire, and then we were speaking to Bellator, and Bellator, you know, I was happy either way. It's more about, you know, I'm getting to the age I've got to look after my family and stuff. So when Bellator come forward with a contract, and it was a good contract, I was happy. I was made up. It was an opportunity for me to get paid a lot more money, fight in front of a bigger audience, and you know, I'm on my second contract with them now, so I'm happy. Apart from all this crap that's going on in the world, you know, it's been good fighting on the promotion, and especially the last one in Milan, going over to Italy and get looked after in the hotel, and even with the lockdown and stuff and the COVID and the quarantine, and they just made it so easy. The food that we were fed and the way we was looked after, and the hotel quality of the hotel was amazing. It was a proper life experience.
Well, Harry Hardwick and George Hardwick, did they fight on the same card?
I think George did.
Yeah, well, one of them did. Yeah, because I did a podcast with them, and they said they went to Milan through Bellator, and they said they had to quarantine in a hotel, but he said it was the most amazing prison they'd ever been in.
Yeah,
they were proper looked after, and it's just you're saying the same thing about the hotel. That they loved it.
Do you know what? It was 5-star food. After we'd done the 24-hour quarantine, waiting for our results, we went down to the restaurant, breakfast, dinner, and tea, and the food was so fresh, so good. I was able to cut weight while eating loads of food. So I was eating loads of fish and vegetables and salads and filling up, and my weight was still coming down and, you know, hitting the target. It was brilliant, and I felt good. I felt strong. There was a good gym there, and there was a pad room there. So I was training in the morning, eating, training at night, and then eating. And I'd done that every day for 5 days while I was over there, and it was amazing.
You went to Milan as part of Bellator 247, I think it was, and you fought against Edison Macedo, I think. I'm not sure how to pronounce his surname. I think it's Macedo. Can you tell me what preparation you did? What did you know about Edison? And then talk us through the fight.
Well, looking at his past fights, he was quite wild. He was wild with his hooks. He throws big hooks, big kicks, looking for the knockout. So preparation, to be honest, preparation's always the same. Just be better, a better version of myself every time I fight. I'm quite a well-rounded fighter. I can stand and I can go on the ground. So it's a matter of just getting myself at the best physical shape, and me technique, fine-tuning everything, me wrestling, me takedowns, not leaving your neck open for guillotines, and, you know, me boxing, trying to keep it tight, but throw a lot more punches and get me conditioning up. And that's all it was. It wasn't really preparation for him. We just prepare all round. I'm preparing now just to be better in all aspects, not just me striking, but me ground. So whoever I get, whether there's a striker or a ground fighter or both, I'm prepared either way. So it's just a matter of focusing on being better. I like to bring a bit more quality to each fight. So after that fight, I just wanted the fight before that. I fought in Ireland against Carl Moore. And it went to the decision. You know, we wasn't happy with the decision. Many people said I won that fight and they gave it to him, split decision, but it was in his hometown. You know how it is, judges, and, you know, it happens. So after that fight, before that, I'd won against James Mullerin, an ex-UFC fighter, beat him in Birmingham. Then I fought Carl Moore at light heavyweight. He was Cage Warriors light heavyweight champion. I should have beat him. And then I moved on to Edison Macedo. And in my eyes, because I believe I was took from the decision, but didn't go my way, I made a few adjustments for the Edison Macedo, because in the Carl Moore fight, I pinned him against the cage, beat him up. I think he spent the half of the fight against the cage trying to get it off. And that's my style, beating him up, wearing him down, breaking him down. You know, I'd like to break them down to a finish, and if I can't, at least I've got the cage control and dominating the fight. Now, he was running away from the whole fight, so when it comes to fighting Macedo, I worked on my takedowns and I worked on my judo and I worked on my submissions more because I thought I want to get him down. I want to submit him. I'm not having this going to the judges, and you know, you never know where they can go with the judges. You never know, and it's not against the judges. It's not easy to judge. It depends what they're looking for. Did he like striking more? Did he like wrestling more? Did he judge the aggressor, or did he judge the person on the back foot using his head more? You don't know what they're looking at the time. So in my eyes, I just thought, right, my next fight, I'm going in and finishing it. And that's what I went in for against Edison. The key was to go in, break him down first round, stay more active than him, dominate the fight, make him fail, and then the second round, go out and just beat him down till I get the win. And that's what we did.
It's interesting you talk about the judges, and it's right, you know, people don't realize, but they have some form of like an unconscious bias. So if they're interested in striking, or they're from a striking background, without being without focusing on anyone specific, but any sort of strikes they see, it kind of registers more than, you know, the grappling or the groundwork. So I see what you mean when it comes to judges, and it is the case, isn't it?
Yeah, that's it. And like you say, you don't know what those judges prefer. Did he prefer the strike in the ground? Did he prefer this or that? It's down to them at the time, isn't it? So you've just got to go in and you've got to try and win all aspects of the fight to make it not, to give them no choice but to make you the winner if it goes the distance. You've got to win. You can't just cruise a fight. You can't just give 80% and hope that you get the win. And you've just got to go in and give your all. And, you know, if that's not good enough, then it's not good enough. But at least, you know, you left it all in the cage.
Now, Edison, he was a black belt in Jiu Jitsu, but you were from a catch wrestling background. Do you think that helped? And if so, how did it help in the fight?
Yeah, well, I find I do well against Jiu Jitsu guys because of my heavy pressure wrestling style that I bring. Jiu Jitsu guys don't like it. They like to flow a bit more. They like to move. I like to shut them down. I keep all the gaps closed. I keep all the windows closed. I keep everything tight. When I move, I don't open any windows, and I slowly pressure and soften them up. So when I fought Edison, I knew he was a black belt, so it was a matter of once I got him down. I mean, the key was always take him down. I didn't care if he was a black belt. I thought, I'm going to take you down. That's my game. My game's, you know, the ground. Your game's supposed to be the ground, but you know, I'd rather fight my strengths. So I took him down. I knew if I was on top, that's me. That's my style, being on top. I can work underneath. I'm good with my jiu-jitsu underneath, but, you know, I like to pressure pass. I like to wear them down. I like to get me ground and pound off a bit. So when I was in his guard, the key was to keep everything tight. He was quite good with his elbows from underneath. He stayed active. So just squaring him up to the cage, keeping his head against the cage so that he didn't have any room to move out and elbow me as much. So I just kept squaring up with his hips and pinning him to the cage, throwing little hammer fists and beating him down. And eventually his guard went soft. So I was able to pass the half guard then. And then once I was in half guard, it was just a matter of time. I tilted my body up a little bit, drove into my head under his chin. And when he tried to sit up, I face barred him to bring him back down. Just made it all uncomfortable, as catch wrestlers do. And then his arm, when I face barred him to put him down, his arm was that way trying to get up. So I just popped my head round, stuck my shoulder into his throat, and just kept the pressure on. And I didn't even have to squeeze. I just slowly slipped my arm, torpedoed into his, tripoded into his neck, and just squeezed a little bit. And there was no, all his airways were blocked there and them too.
That's great. Is that because if you have the skill and confidence in what you bring to the table, like you said, you don't have to use a lot of strength. Once you know you've got the technique right, and you can just wedge, and you're just prolonging the inevitable, right?
Yeah. Well, it's about using your body weight. If you use your strength, you're going to get tired. My strength's always there, but it's there as a backup. I use my strength to keep everything tight, not to force things. So I look for openings. I'll slowly, methodically try and break someone down. And it's a game of chess. Make them fail. My coach always says, make them fail. That's what makes them tired. When you go for something doesn't come off. They go for something else, doesn't come off. They try and get up, doesn't come off. All you do is keep making them fail and making them fail until they accept the beat and the line there and they're waiting to be taken out.
They're just waiting for the butcher, then, aren't they, my friend?
They are, yeah.
You've mentioned one or two coaches. Can you give it some thought and tell me if there's any other coaches or mentors that have played a significant role on your MMA journey?
Yeah, well, my main boxing coach, Rob Lloyd, he prepares me for every fight, and you know he just loves taking me on the pads. We're good friends, so like we'll prepare with. When I'm preparing for a fight, it's 6 5s, 30 seconds rest in between each, sweatsuit on. And when I say 6 5s, it's probably about 500 punches a round. Plus, he keeps me punching, head movement, and it's about getting me conditioning up. So after every shot, he makes me move my head, so my head's not there to be hit back. So it's like bang, move, ba bang, move, ba bang, move, ba bang. And it's that for 5 minutes. And my heart rate, I wear a heart strap. I'm in red zone for every round, for the full round, in my peak. So he pushes me at the boxing, which is really good. I've got another guy that I train with called Gary Crickson. He takes me on the pads once a week and we work on footwork, and power shots and combinations and sometimes head movements as well. So, you know, I've got a couple of good boxing coaches that really work well for my style and help me out massively. Obviously, Darren Morris, my head coach. He's my best mate, and I'm with him every day. Train with him every day, pick his brain. He teaches, but whenever I'm doing something wrong, he tells me to correct it. And what he's saying to me at the minute, we're waiting for the fight. He said, I don't want you to get stronger. Don't want you to get fitter. I want you to get better. So all I'm doing at the minute, everything I do, I'm thinking about it. I'm thinking about my technique, perfecting, fine-tuning, getting everything right. Because then when I get a fight date, that's when I can kick all the fitness in. And don't get me wrong, I'm doing cardio every day, but I don't need to be fitted every day. I don't need to go, I threw 400 punches yesterday, I need to throw 600 today and start competing with myself. It's a matter of getting more skillful at the minute in these times. And that's what I've done last year up to the Edison Macedo fight. We had the first lockdown, the second lockdown. So all I was doing was fine tune and everything. And then when it comes to fights, everything was on point. And it goes to show. Because when you train, you're 80% fit all the time. If you train daily, I'm always 80% fit. So I'm always fit to fight. I could fight tomorrow and do 3 5s. It just depends the quality of the rounds you want. But, you know, when you're 80% fit, it only takes 2 or 3 weeks to get super fit. Because you're just taking it up that 20% then. It's these people that go on benders and go partying and go just drink every night and they go missing. They're the ones that need 8 to 12 week fight camps. So I treat it as a lifestyle. My job is to train every day. People go to work every day. I have to train every day. Otherwise, I haven't gone to work. I pulled the sickie as far as I'm concerned.
That's a good way to look at it. It is your job. And you mentioned these testing times, Lee. Can you tell us what a daily routine is for you when you get up and what sort of training that you do to kind of occupy a normal day within these abnormal times that we're in?
Yeah. Well, my normal day would be to get up in the morning. I like to get up on my own. I like my own space when I first wake up. So I usually wake myself up about 7, half 7. I have a coffee, watch a bit of telly. At the minute, I'm watching Vikings, so that gets me in the mood. The Vikings, so watching them all fight and go to battle gets me in the mood for fighting myself. Then I'll get me breathing. I've got a breathing apparatus called Airofit. Have you heard of it?
I haven't, no.
I've literally got it in a room behind me. Shall I grab it and show you?
Yeah, let's have a look.
Take me 2 seconds. So I use this of a morning to get my lungs open. Right, here's the mouthpiece. So there's like an app. See it? There's like an app on your phone that you download. It's called Airofit. They should be sponsoring me these and paying me for this. And basically, you turn it on, it connects to your app, and there's all different breathing programs to strengthen your lungs, your anaerobic threshold, your respiratory system, your lung power, capacity, everything, different settings for everything. So I use this every morning for 5 to 10 minutes. That's all. Gets me lungs going, gets me lungs open, and strengthens them, makes me feel a bit fitter when I'm training.
So you don't have to exercise, you're just literally breathing in and out with that in your mouth, right?
Yeah, just get my phone, got your phone, different settings, so you twist the nozzles, it can make it really hard. And there'll be a breathing, some of the breathing things, you have to breathe in as hard as you can on resistance, like wearing a mask. And some you have to breathe out to do your out respiratory muscles. Some of them, it'll say breathe in, hold your breath, and then you'll hold your breath for 30 seconds, then it'll go breathe out, hold your breath, and then you've got to hold your breath again. And it's hard, you get anxiety, it's quite hard, it's a mental, and it's not easy. That's why I enjoy it, because then when you're in these little situations where you've got anxiety and you're out of breath and someone's on top of you squashing you and squeezing your stomach, it's good. It's good for that. So things like that I like to do daily. I have me, your lungs are a muscle, like everything else in your body. You've got to train your arms, you've got to train your back, you've got to train your lungs as well. And I know you train your lungs while you're training anyway, but there's no harm in doing extra training for them, is there? Especially that my frame, I'm quite big, so I breathe heavy when I fight, because I have a lot of power generated through my movements and my takedowns, and I like to throw big shots. So, I've got to train my lungs and make sure that they're capable of the capacity that my body wants to put them through.
Okay, so in the morning you get up, you do that, and then?
And then I'll head to, usually when it's not locked down, I'd head to training to my team in Wigan. There'll be about 10, 12 of us on the mat, do a good warm-up with a kettlebell or whatever, do some mobility. Then we'll do some, sometimes we'll do some sparring. Then we'll go on, take the gloves off and do some wrestling. Then we'll move to the ground and do some grappling. So, usually over about 2.5 hours, 2.5 hours training a lot of the time of a morning. So from like 10:30 till 1 o'clock, I'll be with the lads, and then I'll come home, I'll have some dinner. Sometimes I'll have a power nap, depending on how I'm feeling. If it's been a heavy session, I need a little power nap. Then I'll go out to boxing, or I'll go to BJJ then later on. When I've got a fight, I'll even try and add a little something extra on top of that, like a kettlebell workout or strength training or a run or a cycle. I like to go on a 10 to 15 mile cycle sometimes overnight. So yeah, I have an active day. At the minute, there's no fight. There's no fights going on. I'm just staying ready and working on my skill set. So I'm just training with my coach one-on-one, and coming home. Now and then I'll train again in the night, but at the minute I don't have to. So, but most of the time I do, because if I finish training by 1 o'clock, I'll have a few hours off and then I'm ready to go again. I wanted to do more. That's what I like about things like this, because if I can't train, I'll feel like I'm doing something anyway, a little bit extra. Saves me going out to the gym when we're not supposed to be going out at the minute and stuff like that.
Lee, thank you very much for sharing that. And it was cool looking at that thing, man, because like you said, you've got muscles that you can visibly see, but then you've got those inside that you need to build up. And like you said, if you're in that awkward position where someone is smothering you, or they've got you in a head and arm triangle or something, and you're thinking, I'm really struggling, that even those 2-3 seconds could be the difference between a win and a lose, right?
Well, definitely, yeah. Like I'm a big believer in breathing exercises anyway. Like meditation, I'll meditate sometimes as well. Well, sometimes when I've got a fight, I'll meditate every day for 15 minutes. And I'll just visualize on the battle that I've got to be prepared for, and, just visualize on all positive winning, get my hand raised and all stuff like that. So that's breathing, relaxing breathing and stuff like that. Sometimes I'll just sit there and I'll see how long I can hold my breath for. I'll just hold my breath tie myself. And my wife will like start talking to me and I won't say nothing to her. And she'll go, what are you doing? I go, and then I'll finish. You spoilt it. I'm trying to hold my breath. She's going, what are you doing, you idiot? But it's everything's a test. You know, I'm constantly trying to better myself, whether it's breathing, whether it's mind space with meditation, whether it's training physically, whether it's reading a book. As a fighter, I do believe you just got to continuously, daily, and especially if you want to fight to a later age, because I want to fight well into my 40s, if my body will let me. So, you know, you've got to be doing all this all the time. It's got to be religious. And if you want to be the best possible you, then this is the sort of stuff you've got to do.
It's interesting you talk about the breathing. There's a professor that I do some training with called Craig Tetley, under Gracie Barra Bradford, and he's big for all this breathing side, and he'll send us links about Wim Hof, you know, and
Wim Hof, yeah,
and he's just really into all this breathing stuff, because he'll be the same, thinking about the inside rather than just the out, you know, dealing with the outside, because he does his strength and conditioning, but he's very big about breathing and meditating. So yeah, I get what you're saying, man.
Yeah, it's massive. And do you know the best coffee you can have in the morning? An ice cold shower.
Oh, he's one for showers him. I think that professor, right, I think he's stingy with the bills. That's why he's having cold showers. But he is one for shower, you know, cold showers. It's saying it really increases your strength from within. It also increases your immune system and makes you strong. And you know, I can go lukewarm, Lee. That's about it. I can't go cold, man. I can't. During your professional career, you've had over 40 professional fights. Within those fights, is there a certain fight that is more significant and rewarding? It don't have to be some that you won or lost or anything that you overcome, some adversity. Is there one that comes to mind that you'd like to share with myself and the viewers?
Yeah, do you know what? There's not really one. The last fight was amazing because it was a big experience of me getting out further into Europe and fighting on the biggest show that I've ever fought on against the top black belt and Brazilian guys. So that was massive to me, that last fight. Before that, the world title, winning the Cage Warriors world title, it was a really, that's what got me the contract with Bellator, because it's really well known. So fighting a really good fighter who was a black belt again, Victor Cheng, he was a black belt BJJ as well. Fighting him and winning him over 5 rounds and getting the experience of a championship fight was really good. It meant a lot, because I know I can go 5-5s if I've got to, whereas a lot of people don't get to experience that ever in the career. So me being able to experience that, having in mind that I would like to go for the Bellator title one time, so you know, I've already got championship round experience. You know, fighting for 25 minutes against a trained opponent is no joke.
The first 2 rounds didn't go in your favor, so there was a bit of an adversity. So you're kind of on the back foot moving forward, and you had to make space within those 3 rounds, right? You had to catch up and make that time, right?
Yeah, well, he trained well for me, and I've been catching people with big shots. So he sort of gave me a look. When we first started, I threw a big hook and he moved, well, he just like jumped back and went, like, sort of looked at me like, no, I've trained for this. And I thought, I knew then it was going to be hard to get him, because all he was trying to do was hit and get out and hit and get out. And it worked well for him for 2 rounds, but he couldn't keep it up. I just kept pressuring. And he got tired of hitting me and me coming forward. And then I started timing his shots when he was stepping in with the backhand, boom, double-legged him, pinned him on the cage, throwing elbows at him. At one point, halfway through the second round, he was on top. And I was patient. He was a bit scared to move on top of me because he didn't want to lose the position. He didn't want me to be on top. So he was in half guard. And I waited until his body was based on top of mine. And I sweeped him, ended up on top, beat him up on top for a bit. He managed to get up, and then I suplexed him. It was just, you know, after the 2 rounds of him being able to hit and move and being light and agile, it wore on him because I just kept the pressure, didn't give up, stayed positive. I knew he had 5-5. So, you know, if it was a 3-round fight, he would have won. So I took away a lot from that fight. And after that fight, to be honest, my coach wasn't happy with it because he's a coach and he's supposed to pick out the bad points, isn't he? And that's what I love him for, because he's always looking at the bad points and trying to perfect them. So he said to me, it's, you know, that slow start. He said, you can't do that. So he beasted me in the gym after that. And it was like, he made me start faster, start more explosive, be more, do you know what I mean? Because I was taking, like during that fight, I was a bit too relaxed. I was taking shots. They weren't hitting me, but I was losing. I was falling behind on points. And he said, you know, the majority of fights are going to be 3-5s. You know, so you need to get back into you need to win the first round, win the second round, and then you're cruising. Do you know what I mean? At least if you win the first round, he says, you know, you're ahead. He's got to win the next 2 to win. Do you know what I mean? So that creates anxiety for them then. And it's a mind game as well, mindset. So he says, win the first round, and then, you know, he's behind then, and it creates anxiety, adrenaline, and gets them tired because they're nervous and they start making mistakes then. They start lunging forward, and then I can try and knock them out and stuff like that.
You're on this MMA conveyor belt, Lee, and you're at this level, which is the premiership level. There's people behind you. Can you share some knowledge and experience for those that, you know, would want to look at this and think, okay, what can Lee tell us and how can he help us as we continue on our MMA journey along towards the premiership?
Yeah, there's a couple of things that I could speak advice of. One of them is, because I used to do this, and I know a lot of people I speak to in a fight world that do this, you'll be 3 weeks out from a fight and you're panicking, thinking you're not fit enough, or 4 weeks out thinking, oh, I'm not fit enough, I'm not going to be ready and stuff like that. You don't need to be 100% fit 3 or 4 weeks out from a fight. You don't even like 2 weeks before. You want to peak at the right time, so you don't want to peak till the week before. Really, I had a week before is when I had my last Shark Tank and stuff like that, and you know, that's when I really push myself past my limit. And then when I start winding down, that's when my body heals itself and gets super fit for the fight. So as long as, if you push it too hard too soon, you peak too soon, and your body goes on a decline because it can't hold that level of fitness. It always comes down, whether you're trying to train the same or not, it comes down. So never try too hard too soon. Just trust the process. Another one, stay close to your fight weight. It's common, fighters, we all do. We try and cut down as much as we can, and we think we're going to have an advantage because we cut loads of weight and we're going to put it all back on. But it messes with your respiratory system, messes with your fitness, your cardio, messes with you physically. It takes time off your years off your fight career because you're killing yourself in the sauna. You know, if you're fighting at 70 kg, you shouldn't be walking around no heavier than 77. If you're fighting at middleweight, 84 kilo, you shouldn't be more than 90, 92 max. If you're fighting at light heavyweight, you shouldn't really be going over, 105 kilo to 108. And that's how it should be. Stay close to your fight weight. I tried to fight at middleweight and cut from 98, 100 kilo to 84 for years. And it was stupid. And I did it. It was my own fault. And as soon as I went to light heavyweight, I thought, why the friggin' hell didn't I do this sooner? This is great. You're thinking these guys are going to be massive and too big, too strong, but it's not the case. You underestimate yourself, and I did. And I've moved to light heavyweight, and I love it. I would never go back down to middleweight. Couldn't be arsed with that. They're all like light and springy. I like the big get in and fight and wrestle and scrap, and they suit me. Light heavyweights, bigger guys, a little bit slower. They're not trying to hit a move and bounce around and run around, and I'm not chasing them as much. It's it's more, suits my style more. It's a lot better.
Lee, thank you so much for coming on this podcast. I'm really grateful that you came on, and I look forward to see you on the future ones, right?
Yeah, definitely. I'll be looking forward to getting back on and having a catch up with you, especially when I win again.
For sure. Thank you very much. See you later, Lee. Take care.
See you, mate.